What's happening? Good Tuesday morning to all of you. Thanks for joining me as always. It is very much appreciated. We have some terrible Red Sox news that we have to get to later on, but we start with the Patriots. Let's try to make some sense from the post-combine reporting. Are the Patriots falling hard for Drake Maye, the UNC quarterback? That's the question I have after reading everything over the past couple of days. Here was Phil Perry writing about Drake Maye. It's worth pointing out that the Patriots felt as though it was Maye who conducted the most impressive quarterback meeting of the week, thanks to the energy and intelligence he displayed in his 20-minute back and forth with New England brass. Though his combine interview was only a first impression, the Patriots won't write off his personality as an unimportant trait. At the quarterback position, if you want your teammates to play for you, you better bring some enthusiasm to your job. It's early in the getting to know you process, but with a strong interview last week, Maye showed New England he has a chance to check that box as a pro. So Phil Perry says, Drake Maye, good job. Doug Kyed on quarterback impressions by the Patriots during the combine. Multiple members of the Patriots staff have told the Herald that they view all three top quarterback prospects as worthy of a top three selection. Evaluators on staff who spoke to the Herald would be happy if any of the three quarterbacks were available with their number 3 overall pick. One source said that Maye made a strong impression on the team in his formal interview. Doug Kyed, Boston Herald, says Drake Maye did a good job. Evan Lazar on Maye wrote this at Patriots.com. As things currently stand, the winds are blowing toward Maye being the available quarterback when the Patriots are picking on draft night. Evan Lazar. Winds are blowing, Drake Maye, towards New England. Someone wants you and I to know the Patriots really, really liked Drake Maye at the combine. And the question is, who wants us to know that? And why do they want us to know that? Because there was a flood of information about Drake Maye winning over the team in the interview room. Almost head over the heels kind of stuff. So what's going on? Who wants us to know this, and why do they want us to know this? There's a few options. Let's go through them. Option number 1. The Patriots are legitimately falling hard for Drake Maye. And people are so excited about Drake Maye that they have decided to speak to numerous writers here in New England about Drake Maye and how great he was in the room. I guess you could say that's a possibility. That Maye was so good, when people were asked about Maye, those people said, man, he was great. He won us over. He was fantastic. Cannot get over that interview. Maybe that's it. I have more thoughts on this in a minute because there are other options as to why we might be hearing so much about Maye post-combine here in New England with the Patriots. But first, let me tell you about our sponsor. Going to do this as quickly as I can as I pull up the the spot. I can't do this as cleanly as I would like to because I'm on about 4 hours of sleep. But let me tell you about our sponsor before we get right back to the Patriots. The Nick Cattle Show is brought to you by First Class Glazing. Elevate your bathroom experience with First Class Glazing, where they specialize in luxurious bathroom renovations and bathtub glazing. First Class Glazing's expert craftsmen are dedicated to delivering top-tier results using premium materials and precise techniques to create a space that exudes sophistication and charm. That's right. Our very first sponsor with this program is First Class Glazing. You can check them out online, firstclassglazing.com, or you can give Jose a call at 617-849-0513. That's 617-849-0513. Experience the epitome of elegance with First Class Glazing. You can also support this podcast in many ways. Checking out First Class Glazing is one of those ways. And if you mention this podcast, those guys, you get a free estimate and 10% off. So I can guarantee you First Class Glazing will do a better job with your bathroom than I just did trying to find that read so I can deliver it to you. But again, thanks to First Class Glazing. All right, back to the Patriots and Drake Maye and why the Patriots might be spreading this information about how impressive Maye was at the combine during last week's interviews. So option 1, they're legitimately falling for Drake Maye. They were asked about Drake Maye. They were asked about the other quarterbacks by the media, and they responded accurately saying, look, Maye was excellent in the room. Here's option number 2. The Patriots could be simply pumping Drake Maye's tires. Now, there's a couple of reasons why they might be pumping those tires. Number one, maybe, just maybe, the Patriots really want Jayden Daniels. Maybe the Patriots really want Jayden Daniels. It's not to say they don't like Maye. It's not to say that they wouldn't draft Maye. But maybe, just maybe, we're hearing all of this about Maye being fantastic in the room, winning the Patriots brass over. Maybe the reason for that is because the Patriots want Jayden Daniels, and they want to pump Drake Maye's value out there. They want people to believe that the Patriots want Maye at 3 to possibly push the Commanders to draft Maye at 2, so Daniels falls to them at 3. I think that is a possibility. You throw out, oh man, he was fantastic in the room. You already start to work on pumping the value. You try to build up Drake Maye so he looks like the sexier prospect to the Commanders. The Commanders say, well, wait a minute. I mean, look, Drake Maye had a fantastic year in 2022. Yeah, he fell back last season, but he had sketchy weapons around him. Offensive line wasn't great. They messed around with the scheme, new offensive coordinator. The Patriots love him. We like them a lot in the room. So this could be a way to try to build value within Drake Maye before the draft so Daniels falls to 3. Because as we always say, a lot of smoke screens happening right now, right? Tons of smoke screens. So this could be a smoke screen making you believe the Patriots want Maye when in reality they want Daniels. That is certainly a possibility with all of this talk. Here's option 3. The Patriots are pumping the tires of Drake Maye because they want somebody to move up to draft Maye at 3. Maybe the Patriots love Caleb Williams, they love Jayden Daniels, and they like Drake Maye. And if Drake Maye falls to them at 3, the Patriots, because they don't love him, would be open to the idea of trading that pick. And you want other teams to believe that it would be very, very difficult for you to give up that 3rd pick in the draft because you love Maye so much. You now have to overwhelm the Patriots with a ridiculous kind of offer. So the Patriots could be pumping the tires to try to build the value of that 3rd pick. Get other teams thinking, man, Elliott Wolf's from Green Bay. They know how to handle quarterbacks. Alonzo Highsmith, keen eye for talent. A lot of people talking about Maye's tools. He was great in the interview room. Maybe that's our future. But if we do call the Patriots, you know we've got to overwhelm them because the Patriots really like the guy. They might even love the guy. But let's place a phone call in there and see what happens. So there are a number of different reasons why a lot of this could be said about Maye post-combine. I find it personally fishy about all of these leaks about how much they loved Maye in the room. I find it fishy because I can't really understand the advantage the Patriots would have by letting the world know that they love Drake Maye or he was awesome in the interview room, that they're falling for him. What kind of advantage do they get if they want the player? If they want to draft Maye, then why say anything? Unless you're going to try to outthink the Commanders, as I said. But will that really impact the Commanders? The Commanders have to make their own decision. Josh Harris, Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, those guys have to make, Cliff Kingsbury's in the conversation. Those guys have to make their own decision at number 2. And so unless you're trying to desperately sway Washington, why would you talk up Maye to the media if he's just going to be there at number 3? Why would you do it? You would just take him at number 3. He falls to 3, great. Unless there's another option. Maybe they're trying to get the fans excited. Maybe they're trying to build up Maye for the fan base because they feel that Caleb Williams and Jayden Daniels will go 1 and 2 in this draft, and they're already trying to sell you on the future of this organization. That is also a possibility. But let's not get it twisted. The Patriots have no choice here. Caleb Williams is likely to go number 1. The Commanders are going to make their own decision dependent on their evaluation. Unfortunately for the Pats, They can't do much but sit there at 3. And if they do want a quarterback, hope that the quarterback falls to them. All right, before we move forward, because I have some questions about Jayden Daniels, because maybe the Patriots do want Daniels and not Maye, and that's why they're leaking this Maye stuff. Is it Daniels or bust at number 3? That's coming up. But don't forget, give us that thumbs up. We had more likes yesterday's show than we've had, I think, in this show's history, and it was the best show that we've had numbers-wise since we began this podcast. That is not a coincidence. Make sure that you like while you watch, while you listen, because more thumbs on YouTube means that we beat that algorithm, and more likes means more eyeballs. So don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. We're about 100 or so subscriptions away from meeting our goal next week during NFL free agency of 2,250 subscribers. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. If you're checking us out for the first time, hang around for a little while. And Spotify, Apple Pods, rate and review. All right, before we get to Jayden Daniels and maybe some concerns about Daniels coming out of the combine, Devin Allen sends a super chat. Thank you, Devin, for your super chat. Of course, you can send the super chat, which jumps you to the front of the line, gets you to ask your question or make your comment before anybody else, and you contribute to the program financially. Devin Allen says, Maye is a better fit for New England. Tall, strong arm, a much better Northeast quarterback than Daniels, although I won't be mad if we get either. Now, Devin hits on a point regarding Daniels that I want to get to about the Northeast part and what was reported by Phil Perry yesterday. I will get to that in a couple of minutes, but you could certainly argue that Maye, his build, his frame, the arm strength, his ability to play in colder, tougher weather might give him the edge over Daniels, because Daniels, of course, played at Arizona State, played at LSU. He's from California. He's never really had to deal with the elements. And you don't know how somebody is going to deal with the elements until they actually have to deal with them. Thanks to Devin for the super chat. Quick note before we get to our conversation regarding Jayden Daniels, Jeff Howe. Jeff Howe is scheduled to join the show tomorrow. We will have the very latest on the Patriots tomorrow with Jeff Howe. So can't wait to sit down with Jeff. We haven't sat down with him on this podcast for at least, a month and a half, 2 months. So looking forward to Jeff Howe being on the program tomorrow, live right here at 11 a.m. All right, Jayden Daniels. Let's say Williams goes number 1. Let's say the Patriots are hoping for Drake Maye going number 2. What would their thoughts be on Jayden Daniels? What could be happening with Jayden? Well, some reporting. Speaking of Jeff Howe, who will join the show tomorrow, he wrote this: Daniels, who is viewed as a high-character person, has been impressive in team interviews. Daniels doesn't have the same arm strength as Williams or Maye, and he's still improving his anticipation as a passer, but he is viewed as a week 1 starter. Daniels gained steam this week as the favorite to land in New England at number 3. Evan Lazar on Daniels. As the league continues to sort through this quarterback class, Daniels has emerged as the consensus QB2 behind Williams. So Jeff Howe says that it's likely Daniels is going to land in New England at number 3. Evan Lazar says, from what he's hearing, Daniels is QB2 behind Caleb Williams. So a little back and forth, differing opinions about Jayden Daniels and where he could land. And by the way, thanks to Ramsey for sending the super chat. It is very much appreciated, my friend. And don't forget, if you send super chats, you can jump on the Patreon page that we began yesterday. It's going to officially launch on Monday when we start to get free agency news throughout the NFL. $5 a month. Patreon.com/Nick Cattles. You can head there to get all of the details, exclusive content for all of you that enjoy this program. Patreon.com/Nick Cattles. $5 a month. That's it. Just $5 a month. $1.25 a week. All right. So is Daniels the number 2? Is he the number 3 quarterback? Are the Patriots more interested in Daniels, or are they more interested in Maye? Is this just more of the silly season, more smoke screens? Are the Patriots building value for Daniels at number 3 for interested teams? Same kind of conversation we had about Maye. Are they pumping the tires to build Daniels' value Because if Daniels is there at 3, they want teams to believe that it's going to be very, very difficult for them to move off of the 3 pick and draft Jayden Daniels. Is that what's going on? Now, interestingly enough, if you're trying to build Jayden Daniels' value, the question is, where could you trade him? Where would he go? Who wants the number 3 pick? The team seemingly at the top of that heap right now is the Raiders. Watch out for the Raiders. This is Vic Tafur and Tashawn Reed on the Raiders and Daniels in The Athletic. Here's what they wrote. The Raiders love Daniels. The Raiders love Daniels. Now, Antonio Pierce has a history with Daniels. Their connection goes back to their high school days, okay? So Tafur and Reed in The Athletic, they write that the Raiders love Daniels. The Raiders have been exploring trading up, and maybe not as high as you think. According to league and team sources, it may be unrealistic to swing a trade to move into the top 3, considering all 3 teams need quarterbacks. Perhaps there's a window to trade up if the Bears and Commanders both take QBs and the Patriots aren't sold on whoever remains at pick number 3. But that's a difficult situation to project. Now, if I'm the Patriots, and I'm sure many of you would agree with this, I do not want to trade down to pick 13. The Raiders are picking 13th. I don't want to drop all the way down to 13. But is there another way? Is there another path? Again, let's go back to The Athletic. Tom Telesco, the GM of the Raiders, has also had conversations centered on potentially trading into the 5 to 7 range. Now, maybe that makes sense. If the Raiders can move to the 5 to 7 range, if they could make a trade with the Chargers at 5 or the Giants at 6 or the Titans at 7, if they could make a deal and move up into that range, then it would make more sense for the Patriots to move down from 3. A move down from 3 to 5 ain't that bad. 3 to 6, 3 to 7, not too shabby. So are the Raiders trying to orchestrate a trade to get into that range of 5 to 7 to then pivot back to New England and say, now we want to trade up to 3 because Daniels is our guy? It's a plausible scenario. It's a hypothetical, right? That Vegas wants Daniels. New England doesn't want to move all the way back to 13. So Vegas moves up into that 5 to 7 area so they can pitch the Patriots on acquiring the 3rd pick at that point. Now, I find that to be unlikely because the Raiders would have to give up, I think, an insane amount of assets to move up to 5 to 7 and then move up again to 3. You'd have to give up so much to make that move. So I find that unlikely. And by the way, Ramsey's jumping in with this. I do want to let all of you know, Instagram, I guess, is having some issues. Instagram, we're not able to pod to Instagram today. We're also not able to pod to Facebook. So I would imagine there's a problem there with Facebook and Instagram. So don't be alerted. I think they're working on it. But it'd be too many assets. Too many assets, I think, for the Raiders to give up to move to, say, the Chargers at 5 and then move up again to 3. Too much to give up. All right, more thoughts on Daniels, concerns about Daniels after the combine. We'll get to those in a minute. Don't forget to give us that thumbs up on YouTube. More thumbs means more eyeballs. We are building this family, over 2,000 subscribers, trying to get to 2,250 by next week. We do that with your help. Like and subscribe. Don't forget to give us that thumbs up. It is vital to this operation. And the Patreon page launches in 6 days. March 11th, Monday, March 11th, patreon.com/Nick Cattles, $5 a month, exclusive content, ad-free podcast every week, a mailbag with you every week, a hangout and Q&A every couple of weeks, exclusive content, $5 a month, and we might do even more than that as we get cooking, especially next week. Next week, I would anticipate a number of extra podcasts on that Patreon channel when we look at the idea of free agency starting to cook on Monday with the legal tampering period, quote unquote. By the way, Matthew Judon at it again on Twitter. Calvin Ridley tweeted out, boys, make these accounts and play GM. And Matthew Judon, less than 10 minutes ago, quote tweeted that. He said, he know me or something? Well, anyways, come to the Patriots. So GM Judon is at it again, trying to recruit Calvin Ridley. All right, back to Daniels. Concerns about Daniels coming out of the combine. Could be a couple of concerns. Doug Kyde wrote this about Daniels this morning at the Boston Herald. An AFC East scout had Daniels ranked lower than Williams and Maye and believed that a team could win with him, but not because of him. Whoa. I'll read that again. Doug Kyde. An AFC East scout had Jayden Daniels ranked lower than Williams and Maye, which isn't news. We've been talking about that, right? But here's the key. This AFC East scout told Kyde that he believes that Jayden Daniels is a quarterback that you could win with, but not because of him, i.e., he's not going to carry you when you need him to, if you need him to. Now, of course, this is lying season, smokescreen season, and this could easily be the AFC East scout not wanting the Patriots to draft Daniels because he actually really likes him. That's a possibility during this season, right? During this time of year. This scout could be trying to push the Patriots away and say, oh, he's not that kind of guy, right? As Ryan Shaw throws out there, must have been the Jets. They always get the quarterback position, right? Josh Gemini, AFC East scout, the Jets. Yeah, so maybe that's just a silly season, right? But I will say, it's a gigantic if you don't believe Jayden Daniels is that kind of quarterback, if you don't believe that Daniels is the kind of quarterback that you win because of and not just with him, then it's very difficult to draft him at number 3. As we've had the conversation, this is not a like. This is not a really like kind of relationship. This is love. This is conviction. This is when you put the ring on the finger. You're not talking about somebody that you want to date for a few weeks. If you draft a quarterback at 3, I've said this from day one, you draft a quarterback at 3, you best be in love. Hallmark movie type love. Valentine's Day is every day type corny ass love. That's what you need to be in if you're using that pick on that position. I don't even want somebody that you strongly like. You've got to love them. You've got to be convicted. That's what you need. All right, let's get back to more concerns about Jayden Daniels. Phil Perry wrote this on Jayden. There are questions among NFL coaches as to how Daniels would adapt to playing in New England. It's my understanding there are those in his camp who prefer Daniels doesn't end up in the Northeast. This is a red flag. I don't want to go bananas just yet. I don't want to go crazy, but that's a red flag. That is absolutely a red flag. First of all, the camp talk. People in his camp. Now, we've heard about all the ideas of Caleb Williams being swayed by his dad and his advisory team and all of that stuff. But Jayden Daniels' camp is talking about him not playing in the Northeast. That's a red flag. Is his camp going to be more involved than we think? Is his camp trying to work hand in hand with Vegas to get him to his guy, Antonio Pierce? Legitimate question to be asked. So I don't like the idea of the camp. Leave the camp out of it. And if this is true, Daniels is already concerned, his camp is already concerned about playing in the Northeast. Remember what Elliott Wolf said last week at the Combine? He talked about mental toughness. He talked about leadership, talked about body language. Would you be super confident in Jayden Daniels being your franchise quarterback if this is true? If his camp is saying we don't want him in the Northeast? That tells me that Jayden Daniels doesn't love the idea of playing in the Northeast. So already he's thinking about this mentally. That's a red flag to me. You're already concerned about the weather. Already. My goodness. We got to remember, Elliott Wolf, mental toughness. That doesn't strike me as somebody who's mentally tough, right? His camp is already trying to get him out of playing in the Northeast. Already maneuvering, if it's true. Another concern with Daniels, of course, is his frame. Not a big guy, right? He's slight. Here's what Jeff Howe wrote about Daniels. There's some concern about the frame and how that could open the possibility for increased injuries. However, high-ranking executives have said that shouldn't deter the teams from selecting him in the top 3. So, yes, frame is an issue, but it should not stop you from drafting him at number 3, is what Jeff Howe wrote regarding the feelings of high-ranking executives, quote-unquote. Now, I was bugged. I don't think it's the end of the world, but I was bugged that Daniels decided not to weigh in and not to be measured at the combine. And it makes me wonder, what is his weight? If he's not going to weigh in at the combine, it tells me that he understands he is still very, very thin. He understands that teams are looking at his frame. They're questioning him. Now, it's likely in the long run, the smart play. It's likely the smart play because he now gets an extra 3 to 4 weeks before his pro day to eat as many calories as he can. My guy is going to be at buffets across the country, smashing cheeseburgers, smashing hot dogs, eating bacon like it's going out of style. So he gives himself 3 to 4 weeks to pack on the pounds. But that doesn't mean he's going to be able to carry that weight going into the season. Look, you can put on 10 pounds, 12 pounds, but when you start working out, when you start, dealing with training camp and the mandatory mini camp, you get into the preseason, you start to lose that weight. And it's difficult to continue to pack on the pounds when you're sweating and working out constantly during the season. So, I do think the weight is a concern. I'm not telling you it keeps you from drafting him. It depends. I mean, if he weighs in at $195, it's very difficult to draft a guy, especially when you marry the frame and the playing style. He runs an awful lot, doesn't do a good job of getting down. So the weight concern, the frame concern is a legitimate one. And when you combine that with this idea of his camp, not necessarily in love with the idea of him playing in the Northeast, these are, these are the kinds of questions that you're trying to answer. And that's why I say you've got to love somebody. You've got to love Jayden Daniels. And if him not wanting to play in the Northeast, if him being, barely 200 pounds makes you only like him or really like him, then you don't draft him at 3. And I am confident that no matter what we hear post-combine, no matter what we hear over the next couple of weeks, I am absolutely confident that the Patriots are not going to draft a quarterback at 3 unless they absolutely love that guy. I do not think they're going to draft a quarterback just to draft a quarterback. But if you've got questions about Maye and his footwork and his inconsistent accuracy, trying to do too much at times, if you've got questions about Daniels not wanting to play in the Northeast, the weight, see, to me, the Drake Maye stuff, if you believe that Drake Maye can work, if you believe at 21 years old, if he gets a good quarterback coach, somebody like Alex Van Pelt, T.C. McCarthy, Ben McAdoo, those 3 guys work with him, if you believe that the issues with Maye are fixable, then you draft Maye if he's there. Because if you believe some of the things that you might not love about the guy can be worked on and he can improve in those categories, then you draft him. I don't know how you look at Daniels and say, well, we can improve his thought on the Northeast. I mean, if the guy doesn't like the cold, if he doesn't want to play, if his camp is concerned about him playing in the snow and the rain and all that stuff and the wind, how are you going to change that? That's the guy's mental makeup. If he can't consistently keep weight on, there's nothing that you can do. You can try to build a nutrition program around him. You can try to work with him as far as diet. But inevitably, again, as he plays, he's going to continue to shed weight. We're talking about mechanics. We're talking about footwork with Maye. If you feel like you can fix those things, then you draft him. I don't know if there's fixing the mentality of not wanting to play in the Northeast, if that's true. I don't know if there's fixing this idea of, he's underweight in his frame is very, very thin, especially the way he plays the game of football. So I don't know if those things are fixable, which is something you have to think about. All right, let's get back to a super chat. Carlos jumps in. Carlos Almonte. I personally agree. I think Daniels benefited greatly from his offensive personnel. I also think he won't be able to handle the cold like Maye or Penix will. So, I do think one of the things that we need to underline is the talent that surrounded Jayden Daniels. And it's not to say he won't be a good quarterback. He might be a very good quarterback at the next level. But when you're evaluating these guys, you have to evaluate everything. And part of the puzzle with Daniels is playing with Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas and those kind of elite receivers. I mean, Neighbors is going to be a top 5 or 6 pick likely in this draft. Maybe he falls to 7 or 8. But he's guaranteed, I think, to be in the top 10. Be shocked if Neighbors falls beyond 10. And Thomas is likely going to be a top 15 to 20 pick in this draft. So very similarly, you look at guys like Tua, who had the receivers he had, and Mac Jones, the receivers that he had. Now, of course, Joe Burrow also had a couple of thoroughbreds, but Joe Burrow was just too damn good. So I'm not saying that Daniels and the numbers he put up last year are all because of the receivers he had and the talent around him. But I do think when you look at it, you evaluate it in that way and you say, how much better did those receivers make Daniels? Now, Daniels is mostly pinpoint accurate downfield. It's not necessarily because his receivers just get open or they're great at the catch point. There's some of that with Penix. Penix, very good throwing downfield, very accurate downfield. However, there were a number of balls that he would throw downfield where Rome Odunze is just so damn good at the catch point that he would just snag it. So, Penix, I think, still has some of those same questions as Daniels does. I mean, we can't overlook the supporting cast that Penix had at Washington, right? Odunze, not much difference between Odunze and Marvin Harrison Jr. You had Odunze, you had Jalen McMillan, you had Polk. So just as Daniels had some really good to great receivers at the college level and guys are going to make the jump to the NFL this year at LSU, Penix had some of that as well. I mean, he's got 3 guys that are likely going to be drafted in the first 3 or 4 rounds at wide receiver. Odunze is going to be, I think, the second receiver off the board. And then McMillan, he could end up being a 2nd or 3rd round pick, and Polk might be a 3rd or 4th round pick. So Penix had a lot of talent around him too. The guy who did not have a ton of talent around him was Drake Maye. You go back to when Drake Maye had better receivers, you go back to 2022. If you watch Drake Maye from 2022, that guy is a potential number 1 pick in this draft. That guy is arguably as good as Caleb Williams. So do you believe in Drake Maye of 2022, or do you believe that Drake Maye is what he was in 2023? Lost a couple quality receivers. He had Tez Walker, but Tez Walker, he missed the beginning of the season, and Walker's very inconsistent. So there's all of that conversation. All right. Don't forget, I'll continue with your chats here. If you want to send a super chat, it's always appreciated. Like, subscribe. More likes means more eyeballs. If you're watching on YouTube right now, Facebook is down, Instagram is down. So all of you watching on YouTube, we need your help. Give us that thumbs up. Thumbs up means more eyeballs. We build traffic. Also, while you're here, if you like what we do, don't forget to subscribe. Trying to hit 2,250 subscriptions by next week during NFL free agency. And if you really like what we do, aside from doing those things and rating and reviewing the show, which a lot of you have done a tremendous job at Apple Pods and Spotify, we're launching a Patreon page 6 days from now, March 11th on the Monday. $5 a month. Exclusive content will not impact this pod. We still do what we do. But patreon.com/Nick Cattles, $5 a month. You'll get exclusive content, an ad-free podcast every week. You'll get mailbag, And you'll also get a hangout/Q&A every couple of weeks. And we'll talk about life. We'll talk about sports. We'll talk about craft beer. We'll talk about food. We'll have a lot of fun. It'll be much more laid back as this, powerful 30 or so minutes podcast about sports. We'll, of course, do a lot of sports, but we'll do other stuff as well. So, again, don't forget, exclusive content, patreon.com/Nick Cattles. It's in the description, $5 a month. JC Starhawk. You draft J.J. McCarthy, you got Mac Jones 2.0. I saw my friend Zoe mention that today, or was it yesterday? It's probably yesterday. I'm not a big believer in the J.J. McCarthy smoke. Now, do I think he could end up being the fourth quarterback taken in this draft? Yes. Do I think it's possible, if not probable, he gets drafted in the top 15? Absolutely. A lot of teams need a quarterback. A lot of teams want that quarterback. And McCarthy does have great intangibles. He's a bigger guy than we anticipated when he measured in at the combine. He's got a really good arm. He's got good athleticism. But I'm not buying this idea that, McCarthy's going to go in the top 5. Maybe I end up being wrong. But I think that is a smokescreen season at its finest. I really, really do. I think that's what we're witnessing with all of this J.J. McCarthy love. I mean, I didn't think that he was, incredible at the combine. People are talking about him like he was incredible. I didn't think he was incredible. So we'll see. We'll see what really happens with J.J. McCarthy. But I will tell you, I am lower on McCarthy than I am on the other guys. No doubt about it. I'm much higher on the Drake Maye and Jayden Daniels idea than I am on McCarthy. Just haven't seen it from McCarthy at Michigan. That's not his fault, but I haven't seen it. He was inconsistent with his accuracy. So I've got questions about J.J. McCarthy. I'm not drafting him at 3. I'm just not. Just not going to do that. All right, some quick Red Sox news before we bounce. Jeff Passan with the terrible news. Lucas Giolito likely has a partially torn UCL and flexor strain. He could end up missing the entire season. Great. Giolito was signed in part because of how durable he's been. The idea that he could be one of the guys that you could rely on to eat innings. This staff had a horrible time last year eating innings. Giolito was going to be the guy that you lean on to give you 7. If he could give you 7 every time out, then that bullpen that you've put together is going to help you get to the other parts of this rotation. Well, now Giolito is likely done for the year. So who gets those innings? I mean, we're now looking at Pivetta, Bayo, Crawford, Whitlock, Houck, Winkowski. I mean, come on now. In a stacked AL East. So this injury to Giolito cripples a team that already had a lot of questions and truly cripples a rotation. We've been talking about possibly signing Jordan Montgomery. I think it's less likely they sign Montgomery. Some people on X today were saying, oh, now go out and get Jordan Montgomery. I think it's less likely. John Henry and company didn't think that Montgomery was going to do enough to help this team with Giolito in the rotation. And now we think that John Henry and company, and really it's more John Henry than the company, is going to believe that replacing Giolito with Montgomery is going to do much for this baseball team. I don't think they're going to go out there and sign Jordan Montgomery to a big contract because Giolito got hurt. You got a lame duck manager in Alex Cora. I don't think he's going to be back. Your rotation now is all over the place. Bayo has not been necessarily consistent in spring training. He's now, 24, 25 years old. He's not a young buck anymore. So I feel pretty good about Pivetta. Crawford pitched well on Sunday. But, I mean, this is a bunch of unknowns. Pivetta, Bayo, Crawford, Whitlock, Houck, Winkowski. So I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think you see Montgomery pitching for this team. And on top of all of this, Giolito has a player option next year for $19 million. There's a pretty damn good shot at him picking up that player option because he's likely going to be out till like July or August of next year if he gets this surgery. So just a disaster for the Red Sox. Mess of an offseason got worse today. Just a disaster with Giolito likely getting surgery. All right, that'll do it for us. Don't forget, like, comment, and subscribe. Throw the comments at us. Had the best show of our history yesterday within 24 hours. It was a fantastic, fantastic show yesterday with all of you helping us out. Throw the thumb up, like us, comment, subscribe, rate and review as well. Patreon, $5 a month. Patreon.com/Nick Cattles. We talk a lot of Patriots here. Can't always squeeze Celtics, Bruins, or Red Sox, as I just did, into the podcast. So some of that is absolutely going to make its way towards the Patreon, as well as additional Patriots content. Again, we'll have an ad-free pod every week, mailbag, and we'll also be doing a hangout/Q&A every couple of weeks over there. It's patreon.com/Nick Cattles. I appreciate you. We're back tomorrow unless news breaks. Of course, news might break. News might break today. We have the deadline of the franchise tag. Does Duggar get tagged? Does Owenu get tagged? Does a long-term deal get ironed out before the deadline hits? If something happens big, we'll be all over it. If not, we're back tomorrow, 11 a.m., right here on YouTube, and if Facebook is back as well. Thanks for joining us today.